All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Nicole, and welcome back to our English class. For today's session, we are now embarking on the exploration of our third distinct melodic contour in English speech. No, um, for today, this will be our lecture three on intonation, which is under pronunciation. Um, now, um, where do I go? Last time, we really got into the swing of things by exploring the first two main patterns of intonation, right? The falling and rising tones. Just to quickly recap, we learned how the falling tone usually signals that we are finished with a thought or making a definite statement, like I've finished my homework. It gives a sense of finality and certainty. Then we moved on to the rising tone, which, as you know, it typically indicates a question that can be answered with a simple yes or no, or when we are expressing uncertainty or even, a bit of politeness, like, are you coming? It leaves things open ended, right? So today, we're going to build on that foundation and really dive deep into other two fascinating and super useful patterns: fall, rise, and rise, fall. These two are a bit more complex, but they add so much more nuance, emotion, and subtle meaning to our spoken English, okay? Now, understanding them, of course, will seriously level up your ability to both interpret what others are saying and make your own speech sound even more natural and expressive. So you can think of it this way: if falling and rising tones are like the basic colors, fall, rise, and rise, fall are like mixing those colors to create richer, more specific shades of meaning. Okay? So we'll look at what these patterns sound like, discuss the specific situations and emotions they convey, and I'll give you plenty of examples to help you hear and practice them yourselves. Okay? Ready to explore? Are we all ready? Let's get started right away. Okay, let's have the first slide. Of course, we'll start with fall rise intonation pattern in English. Now, this pattern introduces a new level of complexity compared to the pure falling or pure rising movements we have analyzed so far. It is a crucial component of the main intonation patterns in English. The defining characteristic of fall rise intonation is precisely described as the pitch falls when a pitch falls, then rises within the phrase. So this means that within a single continuous vocalization of a word or a short group of words, the speaker's voice first moves downwards in pitch, and then without a break, it immediately sweeps upwards again. So it is combined. It is a combined movement clearly depicted by the unique arrow symbols, if I must say. No, it signifies both a descent and an ascent in vocal pitch. So that specific melody, its contour signals something quite different from either a simple declaration or a direct question. So instead, it often conveys a sense of incompleteness, even a reservation, implication, or a nuance that is not explicitly stated. It suggests that while information is being presented, there might be an underlying condition, so a hidden meaning or an unstated qualification attached to it. Okay, so let's delve into the example provided to understand this complex movement and its implications. Okay, let's have the sentence. Personally, I loathe it. Again, personally, I loathe it. Now, in this sentence, the full voice intonation would typically occur on the word personally, or on the most emphasized part of the phrase, which carries the primary nuance. As the speaker utters personally, their voice would first drop in pitch, signifying a preliminary statement or thought, but then immediately would rise again. Okay, let's try to draw the symbols for it. Okay, I found it. Anyway, um, when personally I loathe it is spoken with a full rise intonation, it conveys much more than a simple statement of extreme dislike. Now, in person, we're focusing on personally, right? So it will start with it would first drop in pitch, which is in per. So let's put that way, and then of course, and then it would then immediately would rise again personally. Okay, so that's it. Now, this vocal movement, it adds layers of unspoken meaning. It suggests that while the speaker genuinely holds this strong negative opinion, which is I loathe it, there are likely some unstated reservations, implications, or qualifications. For instance, the fall rise might subtly imply these messages. First is that while this is my strong personal opinion, I understand or acknowledge that others might not share it. Or another, how do you call that, another interpretation would be, this is how I feel, but perhaps I am not going to elaborate on the reasons for my intense dislike right now. And lastly, last interpretation would be, I feel this way, but there's a wider context or set of circumstances that I'm not fully revealing at this moment. Okay, so the full rise intonation, it prevents the statement from sounding blunt or final. It injects a sense of non-finality or an implicit however but. So it signals to the listener that the speaker is not presenting an absolute unqualified fact, but rather a personal view that comes with a certain nuance or acknowledgement of other possibilities, even if those are not really directly stated. So this complex intonation pattern, therefore, it is a powerful tool for conveying subtlety or hinting at unspoken thoughts, which add depth to communication beyond the literal words. Okay, all right. Next, we are now beginning our detailed examination of the specific context in which fall rise intonation is employed. Now, this intricate melodic pattern, characterized by its pitch falling and then immediately rising within a phrase, it serves various nuanced communicative functions. So, the first and a very common application is to convey hesitation or reluctance. Okay, that's the first, hesitation. Now, as the slide precisely states, this usage occurs when you are not like fully certain about something or you are reluctant to give full answers. So that's when we use it. Like, let's meticulously unpack these two facets. When a speaker is not fully certain, it implies an internal state of cognitive reservation. So they lack complete conviction in what they are saying or in the answer they're about to provide. So the full rise intonation vocally embodies this lack of absolute certainty. It's as if the speaker is internally weighing, different possibilities or considering nuances that prevent a straightforward definitive statement. So this complex pitch, it filters the sound like a vocal, like you're saying maybe, or a tentative perhaps, or an audible reflection of deep consideration before a response. Okay, so similarly, when a speaker is reluctant to give a full answer, the fall rise intonation acts as a sophisticated signaling mechanism. Here, reluctance, it refers to an unwillingness to provide an unqualified, simple, or entirely complete response. Okay? This intonation pattern, it allows the speaker to give an answer while also simultaneously indicating that they are holding back, perhaps due to politeness, maybe an incomplete thought, or it could be a desire to avoid being overly direct or definitive. So the dual movement of the pitch perfectly captures this internal conflict or qualification. Like the initial fall might suggest an inclination just to provide some information, but the subsequent rise, it immediately introduces the reservation. Like it signals that the answer is not entirely enthusiastic. It's not complete or even without caveats. Okay, let's examine basically um, vowel rise intonation is used when it comes to hesitation, to show hesitation or reluctance when you're not fully certain about something or you're fully reluctant to give a full answer. Okay? Okay. All right. Let's examine the first example to illustrate this. Well, I suppose so. Again, well, I suppose so. Now, the phrase I suppose so, it inherently carries a sense of tentative agreement or reluctant concussion. So, when spoken with fall rise intonation, the vocal contour, it would manifest on the word suppose. Specifically, the voice would fall on the first syllable, which is sup, and then rise distinctly on the next or the following syllable, which is pose. Now, the initial fall on sup might suggest an inclination towards agreement or a preliminary acknowledgement. However, the crucial rise on pose is what introduces the unmistakable element of hesitation or reluctance. This upward sweep, it prevents, I suppose so, from being, a firm or enthusiastic affirmation. Instead, it subtly communicates that um, the message it wanted to convey would be, yes, I guess so, but please understand I have some reservations. Or it could be, I'll agree to this, but I am not entirely thrilled about it. Or even you can mean that I'm saying yes, but I'm not fully convinced by it. Okay? So the intonation here is paramount to understanding that the agreement, well given, is profoundly qualified. Okay? All right. Now, consider the second example, but before that, let me check my screen if it's showing the same or if it's reflecting the same one that is reflecting mine. Okay, it's all good. All right. For a moment, let me try to um properly present my screen for a moment. Okay, I think that's better. So as to avoid any distractions and we can just focus on the slide alone. Okay? That's better. All right. Okay, let's continue with the second example, everyone. Now, consider the second example that we have here. The food was nice. Again, the food was nice. Now, the ellipsis here is that it is kind of like it's the ellipsis, the one you can see here, this one. The ellipsis, that three dots, it follows this phrase. It is a strong, textual reinforcement of the incompleteness that the fall rise intonation itself conveys. Here, the full rise, the full rise intonation, it occurs on the word nice. That's why we highlighted it. This one, nice. It's a one syllabic word, but it's still was able to completely provided a, how do you call that? It provided a full rise intonation. So there's two different intonations that you can see here. Okay. All right. For a moment. Okay. Now here, we're focusing on the word nice, right? So let's focus on that. The voice here, it falls on the initial part of nice and then rises sharply on at the very end of the word. So the initial fall could imply a superficial, you know, positive evaluation in a way. Positive, how do you call that? Another term would be judgment. So, however, here the next or the subsequent rise, it particularly when followed by an implied silence or continuation, it completely transforms the meaning. It immediately signals that while the food was indeed nice to some degree, it was only nice, or it was nice but it lacked something, or it was nice but not remarkable. So this specific application of fall rise intonation, it vividly communicates the speaker's reluctance to give a fully enthusiastic, unqualified endorsement or something of that sort. Okay. All right. So that is for the food was nice. Now, here also, everyone, when we try to put some full intonation up, when we try to use or apply rise intonation here in this specific sentence, it it specifies, or this specific application of full rise intonation, it vividly, or it shows really clearly the speaker's reluctance to give a fully enthusiastic and qualified how do you call that, endorsement, something like that. It serves as an understated criticism. It's a polite way of refraining from being overtly negative, yet it clearly signals that the sentiment is far from entirely positive. So the unstated but here, or the implicit condition, it is powerfully conveyed by this intricate pitch movement alone. Okay, so through these examples, everyone, we're able to, it becomes like evident, it becomes obvious how fall rise intonation, with its unique dual movement, precisely communicates subtle internal states of hesitation or of reluctance. It allows speakers to qualify their statements or answers, which can convey a nuanced meaning without, needing to add extra words or explicit disclaimers. All right. So that is for, where are we? That is for fall rise intonation. Most specifically, when do we use it? It's on, first is on hesitation or reluctance. Okay. So again, when hesitation or reluctance, we use it when you are not fully certain about something, or you are reluctant to give a full answer. All right. So that is on hesitation or reluctance. Okay. That's the first application, or that's the first context. Next to this is, we're continuing with our intonation, specifically with fall rise intonation. Here, we are going to focus on the application, which is on unfinished thoughts, or which showcases unfinished thoughts, or implying more to come. Okay. Um, So that's it for this one. It signals that your thought is not complete and there might be more information, or a contrasting, how do you call that? Contrasting idea coming. So in here, moment. Okay, I think everything's good because I received that there's some, error on the screen. Okay, I checked it. Okay, all right. It's all good. Sorry for any technical errors. Let's continue with this one. Again, we are on the second application of full rise intonation in another context. Here we use it when we try to show an unfinished thought or implying more to come, meaning that it signals that your thought is not complete and there might be more information or a contrasting idea coming. So this slide, it focuses on our second main reason we use the full rise intonation. So here, let's unpack that sentence. It signals, let's start with this one. It signals that your thought is not complete. So you can imagine you're telling a story or explaining something. Sometimes you need to give a piece of information, but you are not done with your whole idea yet. So the full rise intonation, it acts like an audio, like you can picture it out saying to be continued or something like that. So when your voice goes down and then back up on a word, it tells your listener, like, hey, what I just said is not the final point. There's more to this idea, so keep listening. No, it's like a pause, but a very active one that pulls the listener forward. It keeps them engaged, it keeps them curious about what you're going to say next. Okay? Continuing, and there might be more information. This is often the case when you're giving background details or setting up a situation. The full rise on that initial part, it makes it clear that what you are saying now is leading to something else. Okay? What you are saying now is leading to something else. For example, if I said, if you're interested, that's the sentence, if you're interested, and we're going to focus on the word interested here. It's the stressed word, interested. Again, if you're interested, my voice would use full rise. That rise at the end of interested, it tells you I am not done. And I am about to give you more information. Like I can tell you more about it. So it builds anticipation. And that's the purpose of that. It builds anticipation or what? Or a contrasting idea coming. So this is a super subtle but powerful use. Sometimes we use the full rise to hint that we are about to say something that contrasts with or perhaps slightly corrects what we just said. Because imagine if someone asks, "Are you coming to the party?" And then you reply, "I might." Again, we highlight the word might here. I might. I might. Again, I might. That full rise on the word might, it suggests that I might, but there's a reason I am unsure or a condition. You specify it in your sentence or in your spoken message. So that's another message that you can imply by just saying I might, like I might. So you are signaling that there's another side of the story or different point coming. So without even having to use the word but it's a vocal way of saying here's part of the answer, but wait, there's a twist. Now let's look at the example on the slide. Okay? The example, if you have any problems, just contact us. Again, if you have any problems, just contact us. So here, you see the full rise in the word problems. I highlighted that one. Now here, your voice, it goes down on prob and then sweeps up on limbs. Again, it goes down on prob, which is our first syllable, and then it rises on lems, which is our second syllable. Okay? Why here? You might wonder. Now, this first part, everyone, if you have any problems, it is what we call a conditional clause. It sets up a condition, but it is not a complete sentence on its own. It needs more. It needs the main part to make sense. Now, the fall rise intonation on problems, it does two important things. First, it clearly signals that this is not the end of the thought. The rise pulls you forward, which makes you expect the rest of the sentence. It creates a smooth, logical link to the next part. It tells your listener, like, here's the condition, now here's what you should do about it. So the first part has fall rise, leading to the main clause with falling intonation. This is a key point. The fall rise on problems acts like a bridge. It connects seamlessly to the second part. Just contact us, and that second part, just contact us, would typically end with a not failing, but falling intonation. Remember, again, everyone, that the falling intonation usually means finished or definite. So the whole sentence gets its meaning by combining these two patterns. The fall rise sets up the condition and keeps you listening, and the final fall delivers the complete instruction. Okay? So, in summary, when you use fall rise intonation for unfinished thoughts, you are unfinished thought. Unfinished thoughts, you are cleverly using your voice to tell your listener you are not done yet. You can hint that more information or details are coming, or you can even prepare them for, how do you call that? A contrasting idea. Okay? It is just all about guiding your listener through your message and making your English sound really natural and, of course, clear. Okay? Any questions for this part, or shall we continue? All right. Let's move on to another important use of fall rise intonation. This is the last one. Remember, this is where our voice goes down a bit and then immediately comes up within a word. No, that's fall rise intonation. Now, this slide talks about the third reason we use the fall rise intonation: for politeness or making a suggestion. It can make a request or suggestion sound softer and less direct. Let's break that down. It makes a suggestion sound softer and less direct. Okay, you can think about how a direct command or statement might sound with the following tone. For example, I just said, meet me later, with a clear falling tone. It sounds like an order, but if I want to be more polite, less demanding, or if I'm not sure if the other person agrees, I can use the fall rise intonation. The fall rise intonation, it adds a kind of gentle invitation or tentativeness to your voice. It implies that this is what I'm suggesting, but I'm open to your opinion. Or I'm asking this, but I don't want to sound too pushy. It leaves room for the other person to respond comfortably without, feeling pressured. It's a key way native speakers show consideration and respect. Okay, now let's look at the example in the slide. Perhaps we could meet later. Perhaps we could meet. Perhaps we could meet later. Here's how the full rise works in this sentence. The full rise intonation is on the word meet. Now your voice go down slightly here and then on the part of meet, and then clearly rise on the it sound. So in me, in the first, no, not the first syllable, but let's just say first part, first half of the word me, it's a drop of pitch and then it rises on it. So meet. Again, meet. Why here? You might wonder. The word perhaps already makes the suggestion a bit less direct than just saying we could meet later. But adding the full rise on meet makes it even softer and more inviting. So if you just used a falling tone on meet, perhaps we could meet later, it would still be a suggestion, but it might sound a little more firm or less open to discussion. So with the fall rise, it sounds more like, here's an idea, meet, and I'm really hoping you'll say yes or let's discuss it. It encourages the other person to agree or to give their input freely without feeling like they have to accept it immediately. So it makes the suggestion more of a gentle proposal, basically. Okay, so you can think of it this way, actually, everyone. A falling tone on a suggestion, let's go home now, it sounds like a decision which is a bit firm. Okay, a rising tone on a question, are we going home, it's a clear question which seeks information. But a full rise tone on a suggestion, perhaps we could go home now. It is softer, more like, what do you think? Is this a good idea? Something like that. So the full rise is a very natural way to be polite in English to show you are not making a demand, but rather you are making a gentle request or an open suggestion. It's very common in everyday conversation when people want to be friendly and considerate. Okay? All right. So we have just spent a good amount of time on full rise intonation. Now let's flip it around and look at its counterpart, which is rise full intonation. Okay? All right. Rise full intonation. Now, as the slide clearly states, with riseful intonation, the pitch rises then falls within the phrase. So think of it like an arc, a vocal heel. Your voice goes up, reaches a peak, and then comes back down, all within one important word or phrase. So this is the exact opposite of the full rise we were just talking about. Instead of dipping and bouncing, it's like a vocal climb and then a slide down. Okay? Let's look at the example given here. Okay, let's go back. Where am I? Okay. Why should I? Again, why should I? Here's how the rise fall works in this specific example. The rise here, so the rise fall intonation is typically placed on the word or words that carry the most emphasis or feeling in the phrase. In this example, the whole phrase "What should I" carries a strong emotion, and the rise fall would likely be prominent in I. So we're going to focus on the word I. That me and highlight that one. Okay. All right. Or it even spread across should I. It could also be in should I. Okay. Let me highlight that one. All right. So you can imagine saying, "Why should I?" Your voice starts relatively low, then rise sharply on should or I, and then reaching its highest point, and then it would fall quietly dramatically to the end of the sentence. So, why should I? Why should I? I. Okay? Why should I? So when do we use this rise fall pattern? We use it for first, strong feelings. Okay? We use it for a moment. So we use it for strong feelings or exclamation. So when you want to show surprise, when you want to show enthusiasm, maybe strong agreement or disbelief or even irritation, it makes the statement much more impactful. Okay? So that's it for strong feelings or exclamations. So let's break down each of these powerful emotions that the rise fall intonation helps us express. First is surprise. You can imagine you hear some unexpected news. If someone says, "I got the job," you might respond with a rise fall on really? Really? Again, really? Or like in you're focusing on really. Okay? Oh wait. Yeah, we're still on no, wait for a moment. I think I wasn't able to. All right. You might get confused as to this one. I was able to edit it properly. But this is for rise fall, okay? So that there's no confusion at all. All right. Let me just edit this one as well on the other slides, other remaining slides for, of course, the rise fall intonation. Okay? Again, rise fall intonation. All right. Let's continue with this one. When do we use it? We use it for strong feelings or exclamation. Now, let's break it down again. For surprise, You can imagine someone tells you something completely unexpected. For example, let's try another sentence. If your friend says, I just won a million pesos, or I just won $1 million, you wouldn't say it flatly, of course. Instead, you would likely exclaim with a riseful, no way, no way. You're like, that's maybe your initial reaction. No way. Your voice goes up dramatically on no and then falls sharply on way. No, it expresses your genuine shock and astonishment. This makes your reaction immediate and undeniable. There's also enthusiasm and you're genuinely excited or passionate about something. The rise fall pattern adds a burst of energy to your words. If you have just maybe seen an amazing basketball game, you might say, that was absolutely incredible. Focusing on absolutely. Okay? That was absolutely incredible. The strong rise and fall on absolutely amplifies your excitement, making it very contagious. So, or if you bite into something delicious, you might say, this is so good. This is so good. Okay. Next, strong agreement. So, this is more than just a simple yes. It is about showing that you completely and emphatically agree with someone. If a classmate suggests, let's study together, it will really help. You could respond, yeah, yeah, that's a fantastic idea. Or definitely, definitely. The rise fall on yeah or definitely makes your full support and strong conviction clear. Next is disbelief. When you find something very hard to believe or you're skeptical about what you are hearing, the rise fall can convey this. If someone tells you an outrageous story, you might respond, you're not serious. You're not serious. The voice goes up on C and then falls on yus. Rios. I'm sorry, rios. So the first syllable on serious, say, it goes up and then it is followed by a drop in pitch in the second syllable, rios. So serious, which reflects your incredulity or doubt. It's like your voice is saying, I'm struggling to accept this as true. And lastly, even irritation is also, it can also imply that or show that this intonation pattern is also very effective for expressing strong negative emotions like annoyance, frustration, or even anger. So if someone is continuously bothering you, for example, you might say with a rise fall, oh, please stop doing that, or I've had enough of this nonsense. So the sharp rise and fall make your irritation undeniable and signal a strong demand for a change. Okay, it makes the statement much more impactful, basically. So, this final point summarizes why the rise fall is so powerful because the pitch undergoes a significant, clear movement, a distinct upward climb followed by a sharp descent. It naturally draws a lot of attention to the word or phrase it is on. So this makes your utterance or what you're saying feel very strong, feel very definitive and loaded with emotion. It's not a subtle or neutral tone. It's designed to convey a strong feeling and leave a clear impression on your listener. You can think of it adding an exclamation mark to your spoken words. When you use rise fall, you're not just communicating information, you're communicating how you feel about that information with great intensity. Okay? Do you have any questions about these use of rise fall intonation? The first one. All right. Let's have another slide, which is still on strong feelings exclamation. This is just an example for different feelings that it might convey. First is, that's fantastic. It shows great enthusiasm. Next, you did what? You did what? Strong surprise or disbelief. No, I refused. Again, refused. Your strong refusal or indignation. Absolutely. Very strong agreement. Okay? All right. Let's continue our discussion with another very common and interesting use, which is in sarcasm or irony. Now, when you're saying something but meaning the opposite, the rise fall can highlight the sarcastic tone. Let's break it down. Sarcasm and irony, these are forms of speech where the literal words you say are different from often or from or often the opposite of the meaning you intend to convey. So it is often used for humor, for criticism, or to express frustration indirectly. Next, it highlights the sarcastic tone. So this is where intonation becomes crucial, because if you say something sarcastic for a moment, let me just, because it's too bright. Okay. So if you're expressing, like if you're, um, how do you call that? Uh, you highlight the sarcastic tone, right? I've mentioned that. So this is where the intonation becomes crucial. If you say something sarcastic with a flat or neutral tone, your listener might actually misunderstand you and think you're being serious. So the riseful intonation, it is a key vocal cue that signals to your listener that, hey, don't take my words literally. I mean the exact opposite. No? That's what you're trying to say. It's like putting invisible quotation marks around your words. Now let's look at the example on the slide. Oh, that was really helpful. Again, that was really helpful. Now, here's how the rise fall works in the sarcastic context. The rise fall intonation is placed on the word really. Your voice would start relatively low and then, no, relatively, how do you call that, high, and then low, and then it would drop sharply on real. I know. Your voice would start relatively low for the first words, then rise sharply on real, and then fall dramatically on Lee. So really, okay, why does this create sarcasm? So if someone has done something that was not helpful at all and perhaps even made things worse, you might say this. By using the rise fall on really, you're making the word sound exaggerated, almost mocking. So the emphasis that rise fall creates highlights the word in a way that suggests insincerity. You can imagine saying, oh, that was really helpful with a falling tone. It would sound genuinely grateful. You would sound like genuinely you're grateful. Okay, let me just check something for a moment. Okay, everything's good. All right. So imagine saying that, oh, that was really helpful with a falling tone. It would sound genuinely, good or grateful, right? So with the rise fall, the vocal movement, it clearly signals that you don't think it was helpful. It's just that intonation that tells the listener, I'm saying one thing, but I mean the complete opposite. So it adds a layer of sophisticated, sometimes biting humor or criticism. Okay? So it is said sarcastically here. It is said sarcastically, meaning it wasn't helpful at all. So this note perfectly clarifies the intended meaning. Without the rise fall, the sarcasm would be lost and the statement could be misinterpreted as sincere. So the intonation is the essential ingredient that unlocks the ironic meaning. Okay? So that is on sarcasm or irony. Let's try to think of some other examples. Maybe you can imagine someone makes a big mistake and you say, well, that was a brilliant idea. Okay? That was a brilliant idea. Meaning you're in literal sense, you are complimenting the person. But since we're being sarcastic here, so we're trying to pick up some nuances into what actually the speaker is trying to convey to you, to try to say to you. And here, since it's sarcastic, they could mean that it was a terrible idea. They say, "Oh, that was a brilliant idea," but I am saying that it was a terrible idea. That's what they mean. Okay. Another example, maybe someone takes a long time to do something simple, and you sigh and say to them, that was so quick. Again, that was so quick. So in literal sense, you're complimenting them that, wow, you're so fast at doing this. But there's context, right? I mentioned earlier that someone takes a long time to do something very simple. Of course, you are trying to mean something else. And of course, you're trying to say that they are very slow. Okay. Now, in all these cases, the riseful intonation is doing the heavy lifting of conveying the ironic meaning. It is a powerful tool for adding nuance um, and even wit to your speech. Okay. All right. Do you have any questions about how riseful intonation helps us understand sarcasm? No, it's a very common feature in natural English conversation. Okay. Any questions, everyone? Or we're just going to continue? I think we're just going to continue, right? Okay. Let's try to continue. So far we've discussed on um, applications of riseful intonation in different context. First, strong feelings or exclamations, and next is sarcasm or irony. And following this, I think this is the last application. This is to draw attention to specific information. So when you want to emphasize a particular word or piece of information, you make it stand out. Okay? All right. So that's that. Let's unpack this in more detail. When you want to emphasize a particular word or piece of information. Now in spoken English, not all words, let's just try to highlight this one. Not all words are equally important, no? Often there's one word, a short phrase that carries the new crucial or contrasting piece of information in your sentence. This could be a person, a place, a time, an action, or a specific characteristic. When you want to ensure your listener understands exactly what you're focusing on, or if you're correcting a misunderstanding, you use emphasis. You make it stand out by applying the rise full intonation to that specific word. You effectively put a vocal spotlight on it. So the distinct movement of your pitch, rising to a high point and then quickly falling, makes that word much more noticeable to your listener. It signals, hey, listen closely to this word because this is the key part of my message right now. It prevents ambiguity and it guides your listener's focus. Okay? Now, let's examine the example of the slide more deeply. I thought you said you were coming. I thought you said you were coming. Here's how the riseful intonation works. It's magic in this specific sentence. The riseful intonation, it is clearly placed on the pronoun you. Okay? Imagine yourself saying this. Your voice would start at a neutral level. Then it increases sharply on you, reaching its peak, and then, of course, it drops pitch as you finish the word, and perhaps even carries some of that downward slope in the beginning of said. Okay? Now, why is you emphasized with riseful here? The note below the example clarifies, emphasizing you to highlight a discrepancy. This is a perfect explanation. Okay? You can think about context. You were expecting someone to come and they didn't. You're not questioning if something was said or what was said, like the act of coming. So instead of, your emphasis here is squarely on the person who made the promise. By putting the rise fall on you, you're implicitly expressing surprise, or you can be expressing mild disappointment or even a gentle reproach towards that specific person because they were the one who committed. It's as if you're saying, I understand someone was supposed to come, but I thought you, and specifically you, were that person and now you're not here. Okay? Consider the difference in if the emphasis were elsewhere. I thought you said you were coming. Okay? We're not going to focus on you here. We're focused on the word coming. I thought you said you were coming. No emphasis on coming, perhaps implying surprise that they are not coming or that they never intended to. Now, another emphasis maybe would be on the word. Let's try the word thought. I thought you said you were coming. Your emphasis here is on thought, as I've mentioned. It can imply your belief or memory is now being questioned, or that you were perhaps mistaken. But with rise fall on you, the discrepancy is pinpointed directly at the individual, right? It adds a subtle but clear layer of meaning that simply is not there with a different intonation. So it's a very natural way to express a minor inconvenience, minor grievance, or confusion. Okay? Let's consider a few more examples just to solidify this concept. Okay? A sentence might be, let's try to do this. Let me add some blank slides for me to, what do you call that? Okay, let's try to have this sentence. I ordered the coffee. Okay, for a moment. Let me try to make it bigger, make the sentence bigger. Okay, I ordered the coffee. So I highlighted the coffee here. All right. So that is where we put the rise fall intonation. Okay? I ordered the coffee, not the tea. Let's have that. Not not the tea. Okay. So that's what we're trying to that's what we're trying to convey. Now here, the rise fall on coffee, it emphasizes the specific item that was ordered, highlighting that the wrong item was received. It corrects a misunderstanding and draws attention to the precise error. Okay? Let's have another sentence. Maybe we can have this one. He told me he'd buy he'd be, let's just try another. He'd be here by 10 o'clock. O'clock. Okay? He'd be here by 10 o'clock. So our emphasized word here is 10. Now we emphasize the word 10. It emphasizes the specific time, perhaps because it is now much later, indicating impatience or a missed deadline. Okay? All right. Maybe a last sentence. We have a simple one. Let's just try a simple one. Are you sure? Oh no, what happened? It this way. Okay. This is just a simple sentence. Are you sure? Okay. So let's just try. Are you sure? The rise fall on sure, it emphasizes that the listener's certainty, conveying a strong query or doubt about whether the action was truly completed. Maybe we could try to add a little bit more context here. Maybe by saying that, are you sure you locked the door? Something like that. You add something. Let's try to put it here. Are you sure you locked the door? No, just to provide some context on what you're trying to refer to. Okay, so these are just some of the plenty of examples where we can use rise fall intonation. Okay, we can always use it in different contexts, different sentences. All right. Now, here in all these scenarios, everyone, the rise fall intonation, it serves as a powerful vocal pointer which directs your listener's attention to the exact words that carries the most weight. So the new information maybe that could also be a thing to consider, or the point of contrast. It ensures that your crucial message is heard, and of course it is heard as well as understood exactly as you intended, no, which makes your communication much more precise and of course effective. Now, do you have any questions about how, let's try to go back. Okay, do you have any questions about how this use of rise fall intonation helps us emphasize specific words and clarify our meaning, to draw attention to specific information? Okay, it's a fundamental part of speaking English naturally, so let's try to really understand how it would work. Okay, any questions? Do you have any questions, everyone? I guess not, because we are on our last slide, main intonation patterns in English. All right, everyone, we've covered a substantial amount of ground today in the main intonation patterns in English. So this table on the slide, it is an absolutely fantastic summary of everything that we have discussed, putting all the crucial information right in front of us in a clear and concise way. It's like our cheat sheet for the music of English. Okay. Now let's quickly go through each row one last time, reinforcing the key points for each pattern. First, falling intonation. Now the pitch movement here is this is where your voice drops toward the very end of a sentence or phrase. You can think of it as a definitive period at the end of a written sentence, but it's spoken. The voice starts at a certain level and then goes down. Okay? Function or effect, we primarily use the falling tone for making clear complete statements, giving direct commands or instructions like please sit down, and for asking WH questions, questions that start with words like what, where, when, why, who, and even how. Because these questions usually um they usually seek, what do you call that? Seek specific information and have a definitive end. Okay? Definite end. So for example, here I'm leaving now, said with a clear downward shift in pitch and voice, especially in the word now. Now, the tone interpretation, this tone conveys a strong feeling of finality, confidence, and certainty, because when you use a falling tone, you're signaling that your thought is complete and that you're sure about what you're saying and there's nothing more to add. Okay? Next, rising intonation. Here, your voice rises at the end of the sentence. It's like your voice is gently lifting up or asking a question. Okay? Function or effect, this is most commonly used for simple yes or no questions. Questions where the answer is typically yes or no, such as are you coming? Yes. Are you coming? No. So it's also a great for showing doubts, uncertainty, or even polite inquiry or surprise. Like, oh, really? So an example is are you coming? The pitch goes up on coming, inviting a yes or no answer. Tone interpretation, this intonation primarily signals uncertainty or curiosity. It leaves the conversational door open, which of course invites a response from the listener. So it suggests that you are not entirely sure or that you are seeking confirmation. Next, fall rise intonation. This is a bit more complex. Your voice falls first and then immediately rises within a word or phrase. It's like your voice takes a small dip and then bounces back up. So we use this for several nuanced situations. It can express contrast, implying this, but also that. Hesitation also when you're not fully committing to an idea or answer, or importantly for politeness, making requests or suggestions sound softer, and of course less demanding. It also shows that a thought is not complete and there's more to come. Okay, for example, I could help. So here the full rise on help suggests I could help, but there might be a condition, or I'm offering to help but I'm being gentle about it rather than a firm commitment. So these tones often sound suggestive, tentative, diplomatic, or perhaps slightly hesitant. It adds layer of subtle meaning, making your communication less direct and more considered, or indicating that your idea is still developing. Okay? And lastly, rise full intonation. This is the opposite of fall rise. Your voice rises sharply and then drops dramatically within a word or phrase. So think of it as your voice climbing a steep hill and then rapidly descending. Okay, this is a very impactful tone. It is used to add strong emotion like surprise, excitement, or irritation, to provide strong emphasis to a particular word, or to convey sarcasm or irony, which means the opposite of what you say. Okay, like for example, that was amazing. That was amazing. The rise, fall, and amazing makes your enthusiasm incredibly clear and powerful. So this tone sounds enthusiastic, dramatic, emphatic, or even sarcastic. It conveys very strong feelings and leaves no doubt about your intensity or your true, often hidden meaning. Okay? It gives your words a powerful punch. Right. All right, everyone. That brings us to the end, no? To the comprehensive solution for a moment of our lecture on Intonation. I truly hope that by systematically breaking down these four main patterns, falling, rising, fall, rise, and rise, fall, you now have a much clearer and more practical understanding of how the music of English works. Remember, intonation is not just a technical aspect of language, it's a powerful expressive tool that significantly changes the meaning, the feeling, and the intent of what you say. It's what allows us to distinguish a question from a statement, to sound confident or uncertain, to be polite or firm, to convey genuine excitement or biting sarcasm. So, mastering these patterns will not only make your spoken English sound more natural, sound more fluid and understandable to native speakers, but it will also dramatically improve your ability to correctly interpret the nuances and emotions in the speech of others. So this is incredibly valuable both in formal academic settings and in everyday conversations, especially as English learners. English speakers. So I encourage all of you to keep listening actively, pay close attention to how native speakers use these intonation patterns in various contexts. Try to imitate them, practice them in your own speech, and consciously think about the effect you want your voice to have. You'll find examples everywhere in movies, TV shows, podcasts, songs, and of course in the conversations you have with an English speaker. Okay? Thank you all for your excellent attention and active participation today. Your engagement makes these sessions truly rewarding. If you have any final questions or want to try out some examples, now's the time. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you all in our next session. Okay? Keep practicing, everyone. For just a peek of what we're going to do tomorrow's session, we're going to have an exercise time. Basically, our whole time would just be for exercise time, and of course we're going to practice what we've learned so far when it comes to intonation. Okay, we're going to focus on intonation exercises. Okay, that is all for today, everyone. Thank you and have a great rest of the night ahead. Goodbye.